Hey gang, this is Charles for Premier Guitar. We're in New Hartford, Connecticut, at really one of the epicenters of American guitar history. This is a building that started at and remains the Ovation factory, even though it's gone through some other changes. I'm here with Jason from Ovation, and we're standing here with a whole range of Ovations from across the years, and we're going to check out the factory and take a look at what's going on and what they have going on now, and what they have in plan for the future, in store for the future, rather. Right, Jace?
That's right. And we hope to, after you walk through the factory, get to learn a little bit about our guitar, a little bit about our processes, most importantly, about the people behind these guitars, the vision that they carry on every day. Hope to get a good light of what Ovation is, and you'll see where we've come from, and you'll come to understand where we're going, which is basically mastery of materials to create a tonal palette that suits any type of player. True lutherie, real people, real hands on the machines, and ultimately artistry advanced, taking innovation, taking technology along with, some of the ghosts of the past, putting them together and making fantastic instruments.
Yeah, you're going to see a lot of surprises and a lot of folks in this factory that have been here for a long, long time with their hands on these guitars. So let's go check it out. So I'm here with Jason and Darren, and we're in the wood room. This is where Ovations begin, in this beautiful wood room here with all this beautiful wood. And tell me what we're looking at here, fellas.
This is our wood room where we store all the stock for making the guitars. And this is mostly spruce, and we also have some other top woods for Ovations, koa. We have cedar as well for some models that we've, custom models and so on. The key for this room is that we keep it climate controlled, and we keep all of our material at a 70 degree and 45% humidity range in that, so that it acclimates, and that way, when it leaves here, it's going to be, it's not going to want to fluctuate too much up or down, and more stable. So right over here we have our brace stock. Now this is all red spruce, which we have started to use on some of our Ovation models. We like red spruce. It's very, very consistent in stiffness. You can see here that there's wide grain and there's very tight grain. And the good thing about red spruce is that you don't have as much variation from piece to piece in stiffness. And so it makes a very nice brace material, and we have started using that.
And that's grown in the Northeast?
Northeast, yeah. Most of this stuff comes from Northeast and up into Canada. Over here is our Sitka. We use this, we've predominantly used that, for years. We've used that on most Ovations, and it's a very good wood. Sitka spruce has a great stiffness to weight ratio, and that's what makes it ideal for, it's very light but strong. We are dabbling with different materials.
Darren, what are we looking at here? It looks like some very nice wood.
Yes, this is our, we call it a supermarket basically, but this is our supermarket for our tops and backs and sides for some of the other brands we do. Over here we got different grades of spruce. We'll have 5A, Sitka, we'll have, master grade stuff, red spruce, we got Engelmann, Carpathian. Those are all things that we can draw from. Cedar as well, there's cedar, and koa, 5A koa. And so what we've got Deborah Ives here, and she's the one that processes all the wood and chooses the material for each guitar based on her specifications. And she also does quite a few other operations. She'll bond in rosettes and epaulettes as well. We do an inlaid epaulette. And to make those components, she's actually getting ready to laser the parts on our laser machine. It's almost like they're like little puzzle pieces, so to speak. And what we'll do is we'll pocket the area in the spruce top, and then we cut out all these little parts, and we use 4 different types of wood. This is the Paduke, and we've got the teak here. This is black walnut, and right here is Texas mesquite. And so all those little parts are inlaid into a cavity, and then once they're cured, then we sand it off and route the holes.
Who's responsible for this design, by the way?
This goes back to the very early days of Ovation and Adamas, and you know, I really didn't know where the idea for it came from until I was really digging through old prints. And this is these represent grapes on a grape leaf.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so that's where the original design came from. And what's nice is you get a certain size of cavity, and then you also have the strength between all of these as well. So it really works nice. And when you add all these holes up, it comes to the same area as a regular center sound hole. Right here, what we're doing is inlaying 1777 inlays in a very nice top, I might add, on that Sitka top. And so what Deb will do is she'll use the epoxy and inlay it and go from there.
What material are we looking at here on the rosette?
This is actually on this one is a black acrylic, and then this material is an acrylic perloid. Okay, whereas on this one, it's also a black acrylic for the main part of it, but it's got abalone for the little. These are called oak leaves. So the oak leaf design is abalone on these. This is for custom legend. That's actually something from aerospace. These little clamps are called Cleco clamps, and that comes from the aerospace background, you know. The first time I ever saw those were actually in aerospace production. But I've rarely ever seen anybody use that in guitar manufacturing other than here. Right now, the thickness of the top is a little thicker than we want, and we give it enough extra thickness so that when we send it through our wide belt, it'll bring it down to the proper thickness that we want to do. And then before the thing is completed, we'll bring it to our final dimension. But you have to clean all of this up and fair this down so it's nice and smooth.
All right, we've moved on to what looks like bowl world here. What are we looking at?
We're looking at the bodies that we use on the Ovation product. As you can see here, we have some different things. We have some mandolins with the rings already bonded here. And basically, we're using two different styles of bowl currently. We're using this is our SMC bowl, which stands for sheet molding compound. And what it is it's.
I mean, this is really the essence of what makes an Ovation and an Adamas different. We should remind everybody right here.
It's what sets it apart, but it's not what defines it. I think what defines Ovation is our openness to use whatever we need to use to make what we want. So whether that's, you know, in my view, this could be something completely different than what it currently is if that's what we wanted it to be. But currently, this is where we're at, and this is what we want to use. So,
and with that in mind, it has definitely changed in form over the years.
Definitely. This one that we're looking at is a fairly new design. It goes back to about 2005, and we've got a patent on this. And we call this the contour bowl. And what this has is it's got this nice contour to it, and also this leg cut. And that leg cut sits very nicely on your leg, so the guitar will not fall.
That was a complaint with very early Ovations way back in the 60s, right?
Oh, it's a common complaint, but I challenge anybody to try one of these and then still complain about it falling off your lap. This is kind of a hybrid in that regard. We wanted to go back to the early style hand laid up bowls on our higher end. You know, this is a much higher performance body, and it's very resonant, okay? And consequently, it's more expensive as well. This part is a fiberglass. It's hand laid up in a mold, and it's cured in an autoclave, which is a very high-end aerospace way of manufacturing. But we like the way it performs, and so this is what's used on much of our highest-end stuff. The Adamas, that 2098 we've been talking about has this type of bowl. What Joe's doing here is he just installed this ring, and again we see these Cleco clamps, the aerospace thing. But Joe, you want to tell them how you do this?
Yeah, we just epoxy around the outside, and then we clamp it about every inch apart. This particular model has a, what is it, 32-foot radius? Or 30-foot radius, so it's got a little bit of an arch to it. So when we put it in, we just make sure we lift that center up a bit. The next step is to flip it over on a big plate sander. So we want to make sure that we're going to get that nice uniform arch all the way around it. It'll sit here for a good 6 hours before the next step.
One of the things here that you'll see this here in the center, these runners, and what that does is that helps retain the shape. So when we install this, we leave this in place, and then it'll help retain the shape that we want around here. Then after everything is dried, we'll clip that out. We recycle this. We chop it up and send it back to the vendor that makes this part, and they reuse it. Now let's look at this. He's routing for electronics right here. This is part of that bowl process. We have a very nice system that for electronics where it loads from the outside. Yeah, here this is for a multi-sound hole. So on the multi-sound hole models, we'll put a rear access door. Actually, yeah, go ahead and put that in. So we'll do a rear access door so that you can get in there and work on the guitar on the interior.
This is pretty down and dirty stuff. It's just a couple drills and getting right in there.
That's right. Doing what it takes to make this happen. We have these what we call doublers that he's going to then install so that you can put the rear access door. Now this is another thing that kind of goes back to the aerospace days. In helicopters and aircraft, there are many access panels that you need to have to be able to inspect and to look at stuff. So when Charlie Command wanted to do this, he was like, well, we'll just put a rear access, and that way we can get in there and do what we want to do with it. Once the top is bonded, Joe has to flush trim it. So here's a top that's been flush trimmed, and we'll use a shaper here for doing it. We turn it upside down and just go around and flush off this edge. These are diamond tip cutters, and they're specifically made for us. You can see they have multi-shear to them, and they also have different steps so that for our purfling, you have the correct widths for the different purfling that we have. So that would be the next step, and we just go around the perimeter of the guitar, and we'll put that little rabbited edge. One of the reasons that we do a forward and a reverse cut is that we want to ensure that we have no tear out around the perimeter of the guitar. Now, the spruce, the way the vertical grain in the spruce is, as you come around the edge, if that rotation of that cutter is going the wrong direction, it'll blow that spruce right out. And so we don't want that. So what he's doing is he's skip routing. So he'll route a section, he'll move to another section, he'll skip the next one, and then after he'll go all the way around the perimeter with the other cutter. And that ensures a much more consistent and better route. Now what Joe's doing here is he's going to go ahead and route the rest of the perimeter after doing that skip routing. But what he's done is he's actually reversed the spindle direction on this router.
After we route it, I'm just going to go ahead and sand it lightly to make sure there's no bumps, so that when we put the binding on it, looks nice and smooth all the way around. Once I get it in there, I'll set that machine up and we'll put some binding on it.
Is it satisfying to you still that you get to actually get in there with your hands and do something old-fashioned with a block?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, as a woodworker and a guitar player, yeah.
So this is an AirLogic system for installing the binding, and the installing binding can be very hard on your hands, and so we developed this years ago to help make it a little easier on the guys. And as what you'll see is these are all little air cylinders that Joe will after he applies the adhesive, he'll turn each one on and it'll clamp the binding into place. and it works very well.
So this is very unique to the Ovation manufacturing process. You don't often see this exact kind of type of machine.
No, I've never seen this type of machine at any other manufacturer, and I've been to all the major manufacturers. Now right here, he's just dry fitting it, and he's going to cut it to length so that he has the proper length before actually applying the adhesive. Yeah, there's still even with anything like this, you still have to have a certain amount of finesse and understanding of the requirements so that you know if something goes slightly astray, an air cylinder or whatever, you know how to deal with it. And that's the kind of thing that Joe has that experience with, you know.
You got a lot of folks on the crew here that have been here a long time. It's
Yes. You know, for the
a good thing.
For the Ovation line, I would say the majority have a minimum of 20 years.
That's impressive.
Yeah, and some have more. Like I said before, I've got 20 years with Ovation. Joe's got 18. We're new guys.
The kid, yeah. All right, Joe. We're looking at some necks in various states of completion here.
Yep. A couple of different models. We do a 5-piece model, a walnut model. We get the mahogany in. It's plantation grown. We mill it ourselves to size. We make our own veneers, the center laminates that go down the middle. We bond it all up. And what we do is we nest out 2 necks out of each block. We'll rough cut it on the bandsaw. We get one here and one there. So that's pretty much stage 1. From there it goes into the big CMS machine where we'll do 3 different cycles on it, depending on what type of neck it is, whether it's an LX that has a 2-way rod, bolt-on attachment, or the newer neck with a dovetail at the end, or the K-bar, which originally, you know, was the big thing for us when we first started. All of them will go through what we call a first cycle, and it'll prep the neck from this to accept either the K-bar, the 2-way rod, the support block for the LX with the 2 graphite rods, or just cut a dovetail. Once all the rods are in it, whether it be a K-bar or a 2-way rod, we'll flip it over on the same machine, and we'll hit it with a bunch of different cutters, primarily a ball cutter to get the shape.
What division is there in terms of production numbers? What do you see? Which method are you using most?
Right now the dovetail is pretty much across the board for a lot of stuff. We still run LXs. We got some custom orders. People still prefer the LX, so we're running some of those right now. Yeah, what we'll do is we'll bond fretboards to them. We use fire hoses that have been clamped off on both ends and air fittings in them, and we pump them with 40 pounds of air, and that really forces stuff together. Gets rid of all the little hand clamps that we used to have to do each neck by itself. Now we can lay out 10 of them at a time and bond 10 at a time. We bond them up with Type-On, 2 hours in the clamps, we pull them out, and then they're ready to go to carving.
I keep saying this in this factory. I see a lot of versions of these construction methods in other factories, but a lot of them aren't quite like this. A lot of the processes here at Ovation still seem very specific to what you guys do.
Yeah, a lot of the tooling was specifically made for Ovation. Of course, it was all, I mean, we were owned by aerospace, so we had some of the best people in the aerospace business doing a lot of our engineering stuff.
Looks like we're working on some fretboards here.
Yeah, we actually have Kathy Budis here, who's been with Ovation for 42 years, and she's worked on everything from doing what we saw Deb doing with the spruce, and she graded spruce and processed that for many years. She's been doing fretboards for longer than I've worked here, which has been 20 years. Yeah. So she knows a lot about fretboards. And what she's doing here is she's slotting, she's putting the fret slots in these boards. And we've had various methods over the years. We had these arbor saws with all the individual blades, but this method works really nice because you're cutting every slot with the same cutter, and so you have a higher degree of consistency that way. Each slot is the same width, and we really want to have that so that you don't have issues with fret pop and so on. So as you see, this is going to go back and it's going to cut every one of them. And at this point, the fretboard is not profile. So one of the after this is done, the next step is Kathy will profile the boards, which she'll end up with a part that looks like this. This is an Adamas fretboard. And depending on what model it is, we'll install binding. Like this Adamas doesn't have binding, but this is an Adamas fretboard, and so that'll be the next step after profiling. Is we'll do our cove. We call that the cove or mustache, and then we'll bond that. Then we'll take that down and put the side binding on, and then after that we'll smooth all the surface on these mills. Kathy is installing the tortoiseshell binding on our 2098 model, the Koa topped guitar, and very quick. She's a very efficient worker, and so she'll install this. It'll have to sit overnight to cure.
Okay, so what are you up to here?
I'm starting to fret Adamas fretboards.
All right. This doesn't look very high blood pressure at all. This looks pretty relaxed. Not quiet work though.
It takes many years of practice.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite part of the process?
Yeah, putting abalone in the bowls.
Yeah. Why is that your favorite?
It's challenging.
Things are starting to take shape. Seen some finished guitars here, and Sherwood is going to tell us about some of the finishing work that goes on.
Well, when they come out of the detail shop, they come to various stages here. Right here, everything gets prepped up. Depending on the model, it is the UV fill with a filler paste, sanded and scuffed. This type of model is sealed with like a rosewood sealer. From that point, they go into the spray booth, and they're given 4 coats of polyester. At that point, they come back out here again, and then they get re-leveled. And depending on whether or not they're a natural or a sunburst or a black, then the stain is put on. The bindings are re-scraped again, and then they go back in for the final 3 coats of another type of polyurethane finish. The necks are the same thing. They come up, they're UV filled, just like the tops. And then they go in for polyester. That's what this is here. They've got 4 coats of polyester on them. At that point, they level them all out again. Level the faces, get it all nice and flat. Make sure your bindings are clean and what have you. Then they'll black out the face and put the Ovation logo down this logo, whatever particular model it is, Adamas. And then they go on for 3 coats of another polyurethane type finish. And then they go into the cure bank over there where they have to set for a minimum of 4 days. And then they go, from that point, they go on to sand and buff, which is down that end of the shop.
We're in the Ovation paint shop here, and we've got Ken Ives here. He's got this 2098 Koa, and we were saying earlier that Koa can be a difficult thing to finish. So the very first thing we'll do on this is we'll put what we call rosewood sealer. So he'll shoot this sealer on, and then that'll give us a good foundation to build our top coats.
So much more detail and relief, and
yeah, and you can see how much porosity there is, and that's part of the thing with Koa. Koa has very, very large pores, and it'll actually go all the way through the top. And we do not use the UV filler because it will actually soak all the way through, and so we avoid that. So we'll put this on, then we'll go over it with polyester, and then top coat it with our high performance clear urethane.
When they come to me, they come as a top and bowl and as a neck, and normally the neck is finished like this one, but the bowl isn't painted, but the top is finished. And what I do is there's various processes of doing this, but I'll attach the neck to the top and bowl, and you have to get the correct neck angle, you have to get the correct centralization, and make sure it'll be good for playability. And after that's said and done, I dress the frets, get them nice and flat, get them looking pretty much like this, which is probably the best looking frets in the business because I did it, and that's how it goes. And from here, I put the bridge on. And again, there's different ways to put the bridge on depending on the type of top. We have graphite tops, which I use in epoxy. We have, like this is a Koa top, wood top. I will put the bridge on with a wood glue. And then it sits, and that's pretty much it over here. From what you just saw me do over there, the bowl goes to get painted, okay? So once the bowl is painted, it comes back to me, and I will install the nut right here. I install the machine heads, and I put the all the hardware on, the strap knobs. I put the electronics in. I put the pickup in, and I hook up all the electronics. And from here, I put strings on. And once I put the strings on, it's all set for setup. From here, I take it with the strings on it. I bring it up to the sound room, and I set all the string height and the actions and the bridge height.
So you're doing everything all the way up to setup.
I am Mr. Ovation, they call me.
You're making it a guitar.
That's it.
So tell us what you do here. This is the Adamas Cell, as I'm told, and Adamas is very important to the Ovation line and has been historically. It's not an entirely different thing, but what is it exactly? Explain to our viewers back home.
Pretty much the whole thing is all custom made. It's all hands-on work, hand sanding, the fiberglass layups for different style models that I'll be making.
Put fiberglass resin into this material, okay? So we'll work it in a wet layup by hand, and he'll paint all the resin into here as well. And then he'll go around and put this in place like that, okay? And then once everything's laid up and cured, he puts an intensifier in there, clamps everything down, and lets it cure. So it's a catalyzed product. It usually cures a couple hours overnight, and then the next day we've got actually a release agent that we put into the mold, and so the next day he'll take this mold apart. It splits right in the center, and then he'll be able to pull this part out. And you can actually see it has a little ledge built into it right here.
Now this can't be easy to do, this detail work either, nor this level of precision here. This looks fairly work intensive.
It's not easy. That's why we have Howard do it.
Yeah.
But so yeah, this is all very important parts of this thing, because what this does, this is what we call a flex edge, and there's a patented thing, the whole thing. But this fiberglass has a little. This is our bonding surface for our carbon fiber tops, which we'll look at, and so. The idea behind this is that is a flexible edge that helps the guitar diaphragm pump. Right. And so we have to build that into it. We have to also build this, which is the bonding surface for the side of the bowl. And then this little ledge here stops the ring from going down. So that's where the bowl actually butts up against there. So it helps index the part.
There's a very different construction process at work that's independent from the Ovation line, that belongs to Adamas in a very unique way.
Totally unique, and it was developed in the 70s by Charlie Kaman and a number of his engineers, and works very well. It's got a very unique sound. So you can see this is one of those autoclaved, hand laid up fiberglass bowls, and then the ring has been bonded, and there's a lot of trim work that has to happen because you've got a lot of flashing that's left after the bonding. So that's all cleaned up and trimmed. And then Howard goes back and meticulously just fix all what I call dental work. It's all this little detail. So he has to fix all that stuff if there's any imperfections or air bubbles. And so we take care of all of that. And then after that, then we'll take it to the next level where we paint the interior of the guitar, we color this. Now there'll be additional paint work that gets done, but right now this is just stained to accept the top coat later. We use a digitizing arm to actually digitize the inside of this and cut the top on a CNC so it fits precisely. Now, for years we actually did that by hand, and this is more recent technology that we've embraced, and it saves hours of time for us, and so that's a nice change. And what this is actually comprised of is it's one layer of 5 thousandths thick graphite, carbon fiber. It's unidirectional, so all the toes, they call them toes, it's like little fibers, run this direction, okay? And then there's a wooden core that we have oriented at a different direction, and that can also change the tonality of the guitar as well. So we've got that we can play with. And then the back side is one more layer of 5 thousandths graphite. And so when you really think about 5 thousandths, that's like a human hair or something, and so it's super thin, but where you get the strength is you've got a sandwich basically of very thin carbon fiber on each side with a core, a thicker wood core, and that core is very lightweight. And once it's sandwiched in there, it basically becomes like inert. It's there, and it acts as just almost like a spacer between the two outer layers.
That's how this factory tour ends. Thanks, Jace. It's been a pleasure, man. Signing off from New Hartford, Connecticut, this is Charles for Premier Guitar.